Welcome to today's brand origin deep dive. You step into a forgotten archive room, air thick with history and dust. Fluorescent lights hum, casting long shadows over rows of file cabinets that smell of aged paper and something metallic. Your fingers trace the faded lettering on one box. Samsung Trading Co., 1938 to 1950s. Forget the smartphones and TVs. This is a different world entirely. This box holds the secrets of a whisper of a beginning, rooted not in Silicon Valleys, but in dried fish, flour mills, and a single ambitious man's vision in Daegu, South Korea. You pull out a brittle, yellowed ledger, its pages filled with meticulous script detailing transactions of exports and groceries. It feels impossibly far from the future it would spawn. If you find value in this kind of storytelling, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, or what first comes to mind when you hear the name Samsung. Let's dive in and discover how it all began. You flip through the ledger, feeling the texture of history. These humble entries record the major historical milestone, the founding of Samsung Sangwei, a small trading company established in 1938. Its initial focus? Exporting local goods like dried fish and vegetables to China. Soon, founder Lee Byung-chul, a man driven by a relentless, almost astonishing ambition, expanded rapidly into flour mills, confectionery, textiles, and later, sugar and fertilizer, foundational industries for a nation rebuilding itself. It's a world away from microchips, yet brand historians still debate whether this early diversification was strategic foresight or simply opportunistic expansion in a hungry post-war economy. You notice something small, a quirky lesser-known detail. Etched into the side of a wooden crate listed in the ledger is a rudimentary version of the 3 stars symbol, a personal mark far removed from the global corporate logo it would become. It's a silent hint of the immense potential contained within these dusty pages, a promise of growth waiting to explode from this humble seed. You leave the world of ledgers and trading floors, following a faint electric hum into a new, unsettling realm, electronics. The files here are different now, blueprints smudged with grease, early schematic diagrams that look utterly alien compared to the familiar company balance sheets. In the late 1960s and 70s, Samsung makes its first bold step into this arena, entering the electronics market relatively late, widely seen as a follower, even a copier. This pivot is awkward, challenging. You uncover memos detailing frustrating manufacturing defects and quality control nightmares. Their first products, like early black and white televisions that feel clunky even by retro standards, are a struggle. There's a palpable sense of desperation, a company trying desperately to run before it can walk, scrambling to acquire necessary technology from abroad. Internally, tension simmers between the old guard, comfortable with trading, and the new engineers grappling with unfamiliar concepts like semiconductors. You find a photograph of an early production line. Faces are strained, focused intensely on volatile, unfamiliar components. This rapid, seemingly ill-equipped leap sparks a corporate identity crisis. The public and even some insiders question the wisdom of this rapid expansion. The 3 stars logo, once symbolizing rice and noodles, now appears on plastic casings, looking somewhat out of place, a hopeful symbol attached to uncertain ventures. The symbolic thread feels stretched thin, trying to cover too much ground. You smell the hot plastic, hear the static on a screen, feel the palpable frustration in written accounts. Brand historians still debate whether the breakneck speed of this entry was necessary or simply reckless. You realize this constant, high-pressure reinvention will become a recurring, sometimes destructive pattern for the brand. Building on what came before, where the focus was perhaps on reaching scale and sheer output, the narrative sharpens dramatically in the 1990s. This era represents a critical, almost brutal turning point under the founder's son, Lee Kung-hee, driven by the new management initiative. You sift through internal reports detailing his relentless, almost obsessive drive for quality and design excellence, demanding a move from quantity over quality to a truly global standard. This wasn't just a strategy shift. It was a cultural upheaval. Employees recount the intense pressure, the grueling long hours, and a palpable fear of failure pervading the factory floors and meeting rooms. The palpable tension, the cold, unyielding feel of machinery during inspection, and the tense silence of high-stakes management meetings underscore the stakes. The story culminates in a staggering, symbolic act, the public burning of thousands of defective products, phones, faxes, anything that didn't meet the new standard, laid out like sacrifices in a courtyard. You find a poignant memo from an executive detailing not just the logistics, but the profound emotional impact of this event, reflecting on its horrifying necessity and the chilling, unequivocal message it sent internally. Brand historians still debate whether such a public display of destruction was necessary, or if a less drastic internal retraining program would have achieved similar results. This section explores the deep emotional toll of such radical change, the sense of betrayal felt by those whose work was annihilated, and the cold logic of corporate transformation. The emotional shift is profound, from striving for volume to a ruthless, almost spiritual pursuit of quality at any cost. The symbolic thread of the 3 stars now feels scarred, perhaps even tainted by fire, representing not just ambition, but sacrifice and destruction. The imagined smell of burning plastic and circuitry lingers. This single-minded focus on perfection, however, foreshadows its own kind of instability and hidden flaws yet to surface. Building on the foundation laid by relentless quality control, the brand now turns inward, seeking not just function, but soul. You step into the design archives, a space that feels less like a museum and more like a graveyard of brilliant, forgotten ideas. After the push for reliability, the quest began for a distinct design identity, moving decisively away from simply mimicking what others were doing. This marked a major turning point, the conscious decision to define brand design itself. Here lies the often anonymous world of corporate design, countless concepts sketched on digital tablets and discarded physical mock-ups littering shelves, the hum of 3D printers echoing the frantic pace. You sense the internal battles, engineers prioritizing rigid function, clashing with designers yearning for fluid form. You uncover files detailing forgotten prototypes, radical ideas, like a completely modular phone concept shelved for being too risky, or ergonomic experiments deemed too expensive for mass production. This explores the human cost of iterative design, the pressure to constantly innovate in a crowded global market, pouring years into products that never see the light of day. The emotional shift is palpable, a struggle for artistic and brand soul. Can a massive corporation genuinely have a human, relatable design language? public perception often lags behind this ambitious internal push. The symbolic thread of the logo continues its evolution, sometimes receding into a simple wordmark, a shedding of old skin, perhaps losing some original meaning in the process. The smooth, cold feel of prototype materials, the visual noise of discarded work, the hushed intensity of design review meetings. These sensory details underscore the pressure. Design historians still debate whether this period truly forged a lasting aesthetic or merely added layers of polish. This relentless pursuit of cutting-edge design and speed, you sense, could lead to unforeseen complications and critical errors down the line. Building on the trajectory of global expansion, you now find the records becoming purely digital. You navigate through humming servers in a climate-controlled room, accessing the era where Samsung's smartphone dominance seemed absolute. This is the peak. Sleek devices capturing the world's attention, iconic ad campaigns defining culture, and sales figures climbing into the stratosphere. Yet beneath this polished surface lay significant vulnerability. This section starkly juxtaposes that triumph with the terrifying reality of major product failures. Most notably, the explosive battery issues of a flagship phone. You read corporate communications scrambling to manage the crisis, customer complaints filled with palpable fear and frustration, and internal reports detailing the desperate race to identify the root cause under immense pressure. The human element is laid bare. Engineers working around the clock in makeshift testing labs, reportedly simulating extreme conditions so intensely they needed specialized cooling units just to run the tests. Executives facing intense public scrutiny, and the customers whose trust was suddenly, violently shattered. The emotional shift is dramatic, from the peak of success to a terrifying plunge into crisis and public distrust. The symbolic thread, the 3 stars, feels unstable now, flickering or even dangerous, embodying the hidden flaws beneath the shine. Sensory details are sharp and jarring. The reported heat of a failing battery, the jarring sound of a public recall announcement, the glare of endless news headlines, the tense silence of a crisis management war room. Analysts continue to question the long-term impact of this crisis on consumer loyalty and the brand's reputation. This period leaves a lingering sense of unease. Can trust truly be rebuilt? And what corners might be cut in the relentless race to stay on top? You step back from the archive, the dust settling, the hum of the modern world returning. Samsung isn't just a company anymore. It's a pervasive presence, an echo in the network of global connectivity. Its journey from a trading company dealing in fish and noodles to a titan shaping our digital lives is a story of relentless ambition, brutal self-reinvention, and moments of profound vulnerability. The initial 3 stars, once a simple mark on a crate, have transformed, shed, and reappeared in abstract forms across billions of devices, representing not just the founder's vision, but a complex, sometimes contradictory legacy. What does it mean when the tools that connect us are born from such intense pressure, such dramatic pivots, such public failures and hidden sacrifices? Brand historians still debate whether the sheer speed of Samsung's global expansion inevitably created the internal strain that led to later quality control issues, or if those were separate, manageable challenges. The scent of stale paper fades, replaced by the cool, smooth feel of a modern device in your hand. A culmination of 80 years of struggle, innovation, and guarded secrets. One striking turning point, The intense focus on vertical integration meant bringing everything in-house, down to the smallest chip, a move that required immense investment and risk. And somewhere in that process lies the quiet disappointment of a forgotten designer whose brilliant, slightly quirky ergonomic concept never saw the light of day. You swipe the screen, and the familiar interface lights up, a portal to the world. But knowing the journey, seeing the ghosts in the machine, does the interaction feel different? Does the sleek design hide the scent of burnt plastic, the tension of a crisis meeting, the quiet desperation of a team racing a deadline? The story of Samsung is a reflection of our own frantic, connected age, a constant cycle of creation and destruction, visibility and hiddenness, striving for connection while grappling with disconnection. As you close the door on the archive, the hum of servers follows you out, a reminder that the signal, however complex and sometimes glitchy, is always transmitting. What mysteries still lie dormant within the code, waiting for the next pivot, the next crisis, the next reinvention? The story isn't over. It's just paused, waiting in the endless cycle of update and recall. Stepping away now, you carry the weight of that history, the dense layers of ambition, failure, and improbable success. What we've seen is a saga of relentless forward motion, of pursuing connection and technological dominance at almost any cost. The key takeaway is perhaps the sheer resilience required not just to build something, but to constantly tear it down and rebuild it stronger, faster, smarter. The long-term legacy of Samsung isn't just in the sheer number of devices in the world, but in demonstrating how a company can reinvent itself multiple times over, absorbing shocks and leveraging crises. Its cultural symbolism is complex, representing immense power and technological progress, but also the intense, often unseen pressure cooker environment that fuels such growth. It makes you reflect on the lessons learned about the human cost of innovation, the forgotten stories behind the polished surfaces, and the enduring nature of struggle beneath the sheen of success. And maybe, just maybe, the soul of a brand is never in its product, but in the people, stories, and stumbles that shape it.